I want to thank all of our witnesses for your testimony today and the significant amount of work that you've put into these bills. And it is, as been pointed out by several of you, it is important that these bills be delivered in a timely fashion. And we're working through that process today to get them to the floor. And I hope that we're successful in doing that. Mr. Calvert, you brought up about the number of submissions that you received from members. You had a pretty high number there, but I suspect there's even more than that. You were requests that you were able to work into the base bill as you were working this process through your subcommittee?
Mr. Chairman, we had about 10,000 requests for the appropriation bill in general. We worked through those. We were able to take care of a substantial number of those, working with the minority to make sure that members of Congress areas and their interests were well represented within the bill. So that's a good thing. It's just that it seems that whether you're in the majority or the minority, the go-to offset is the O&M accounts, operation and maintenance accounts to the Department of Defense, which we need to operate the department and to maintain the equipment that we have. And so most of the money that's being offset is for those accounts, which obviously would gut that O&M account significantly. So that's the reason I bring that up, is that we try to, certainly we have a significant amount of funds that we're responsible for, but with a 6% inflation rate and a 1% increase, we've had to reduce the department approximately 5%. And generally, I made cuts of about $18 billion, which made some members unhappy, but that's the thing we had to do in order to meet our requirement under the FRA.
You brought up consolidation and recognizing that's not something you can fix in a single year's appropriations bills, but what are some of the things that we can look for as evidence that you're beginning to turn the tide a little bit on the consolidation?
Well, as you know, we only have 5 primes today, and we've had some difficulties with some of the major programs. One that comes to mind that I probably shouldn't bring up, but I will, a submarine program, which I know some of my colleagues on both sides have talked to me about, specifically the Virginia-class submarine, which I'm in favor of. I'm in favor, obviously, of the department moving to a 2+1. That means 2 Virginia-class submarines and the Columbia submarine to replace the Ohio-class submarine. Unfortunately, our industrial base, since the failure of the Soviet Union, has diminished significantly. We've closed a number of shipyards, and we do not have the industrial base or the supply chain at this moment to build 2 Virginia-class submarines. So what we're directing significant resources to in the next few years, over $10 billion, is to rebuild the industrial base for the submarine program, where we can get to a 2, potentially up to 3 Virginia-class submarines per year, working with our allies in Great Britain and Australia under the AUKUS program to make sure that we meet that requirement. Unfortunately, as we speak today, we do not have that industrial base. But that's, by the way, across the enterprise, whether it's fighter planes, whether it's submarines, whether it's ships, and you name it, we've had some difficulties meeting what needs to be supplied to make sure that our military has the best equipment and the best supplies, and if we do go to war, that we win and they lose.
Thank you. Chairman Diaz-Barrow, let me ask you the same question about the number of member submissions that you received in working through your bill.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have member requests in our bill. However, as you know, this bill is mostly policy, right? So we worked with every member, including very closely with the Foreign Affairs Committee, the members there, but we worked with every member of the Appropriations Committee and outside the Appropriations Committee to try to reflect their concerns and their priorities.
So you attempted to make this a very inclusive product?
Very much so. Very much so. Yes, sir.
Chairman Amadei, let me just ask you the same on Homeland Security. Can you kind of give me an idea of how many member submissions that that you received during the process of your markup?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's a two-part thing. There were ones that were received from committee members on both sides of the aisle before the full committee markup. We ended up including many of those in the manager's amendment. We had 16 or 17 that were debated in front of the full committee, and some were accepted on both sides of the aisle, and some were rejected. For this bill, we had about 4,000 member requests, but we've got a group that we're working on for en bloc, and rough figures about 39-ish that we, depending on what you folks do, will be prepared to address on the floor.
Well, I want to thank all of you, because it is a tremendous amount of work. I mean, I also need to thank the rules staff. They've put in a tremendous amount of work going through the amendments this past several days. It is important that we do our work and that we get these bills delivered to the country before the end of the fiscal year. So I thank you for your participation, help in getting it done. And Mr. Ranking Member, I'll yield to you for any questions you may have.